Hi, welcome to Assembly Update. I'm Assemblyman Phil Ramos, representing the towns of Brentwood, Central Islip, and Bayshore. I am the Deputy Speaker of the New York State Assembly. And today's show is very important because currently there's some things that are happening that are gripping this country, some unfortunate things that are happening coming from Washington, and it's affecting the Hispanic community and the immigrant community of whatever race. This weekend, America and the world witnessed what we have long feared: unchecked presidential power, which is being used to target the immigrant communities, especially communities of color, without due process, without accountability, the use of ICE and the National Guard in these raids, and they amount to authoritarian overreach. That's basically what it is throughout the country. What we have witnessed is not an immigration enforcement. It's a campaign of fear. It's a psychological campaign of fear against our community and intimidation. Families are being torn apart, children being ripped out of the arms of their mothers, loved ones are disappearing into a system that offers no transparency and no justice. People who were once promised protection, people who did things legally, are now being deported into dangerous conditions, violating both legal and moral obligations. This has left the entire community traumatized, afraid to go to work, schools, or seek medical care. This is about more than immigration. It's about a breakdown in our democracy. The courts are being ignored. Congress is silent. Checks and balances are being undermined. The executive branch is defying both judicial orders and constitutional norms. Immigrants are not a threat. They are an essential part of the American fabric. They build our cities, they care for our elderly, work in our farms, they drive our economy, and they are using them as a scapegoat, while the wealthiest 1% in this country continue to rig the system as both immoral and dishonest. It is both immoral and dishonest to have the 1% of this country owning more wealth than the rest, and yet they're trying to convince, and they've convinced a certain amount of the American public, that the person who's taking something from them is the poor guy who mows their lawn, or the person who washes the dishes. But the person, that 1% who owns all the wealth, no, they have a privilege of even paying less taxes than you. This is not leadership. This is cruelty disguised as policy. People in Los Angeles and Long Island are rising up, not with violence. Peaceful resistance, that's what we need to do. Community members are risking their own safety to defend their families, and this moment demands that we all stand in solidarity. The Black, white, Latino, Asian, Democrat, Republican elected officials must not stay neutral. Silence equals complicity. This is a defining moment, and we will stand with the people, and we will not enable state-sponsored fear, and we will demand ICE an end to the ICE raids. We condemn the use of military force against civilians, protect immigrants' families from unjust detention, support peaceful protests and civil disobedience. As the first Deputy Speaker that is of Latino descent, son of Puerto Rican parents, I will not be silent. I stood up against injustice in law enforcement, and I will continue to do so in government. This is a moral fight for human dignity, freedom, and democracy. Like Cesar Chavez, Dr. King's Stonewall protests, the movement for George Floyd, we must keep marching, just as we did in those movements. New York is a state of immigrants, and we will not let the torch of liberty be extinguished. Let history record that we stood with the people, not with fear and not with silence. We in the New York State Assembly have responded with the various things that we've done to protect the immigrant community. In addition to several laws that we have introduced to try and help and inoculate our state from the damage that the federal government is doing. In addition to doing that, we've gotten over $60 million for the new Office of New Americans for legal services for immigrants. That's something we could do at the state level. Up until now, legal aid is only available to people with criminal issues. But this would allow people who cannot afford a lawyer to deal with their immigrant issues that they have. We have a long list of initiatives that we've done. Go to my website, Assemblyman Phil Ramos Facebook page, and you will see a list of all the things that we've done, not right now, what we've been doing for the immigrant community. So I would like to introduce after that long introduction, my two guests who's been waiting patiently here, and they are two champions in our community. They've been out there playing their role. Now, everybody has their role. Activists have their role to go out there and create awareness of the community. Elected officials have an obligation to try and deliver some kind of protection to our people, some kind of resources, some kind of laws. The media has an obligation to inform people. And these two guests today have taken their own time. Mariela, Rivas, an activist in our community, Pilar Moya from Latinos Unidos de Long Island. They have been out there driving our neighborhoods, trying to identify where ICE has been operating, and trying to create awareness on social media by posting photos, videos, and just allowing the community to know what's happening in our streets. So again, after that long introduction, I'd like to welcome you all. Pilar, could you explain a little bit about what your experience has been in what it is you're doing and what the response has been?
Yes, so ever since we heard about these ICE raids happening in Long Island, we started coordinating efforts with other community activists and like Mariela and Osman Canales, and we just got in together and we decided to start monitoring the streets. And what we've seen on the streets is really alarming. Right, we've seen what seems to be a cooperation from law enforcement, from Suffolk County Police Department with ICE, or alleged ICE, because no one ever identifies, so we don't know who they are, working together, pretty much terrorizing our community, our children. And we've seen that through all over throughout the weekend. We got everything in a lot of video, which I hope people get to see, that shows how, not only shows the manner, but also it shows how they are reaching out to our members, our community members, without having a judicial warrant.
And you've actually gone around taking photos, right? You've gone around taking photos and you've published them so people can know exactly where in their neighborhood this is happening.
Absolutely.
And it's important that people know their rights as well.
Correct.
People realize that this has been a lot of misinformation. The president said he was only going to go after criminals, but the problem is there are not enough criminal immigrants for him to meet his goal of 3,000 deportations a day. So he's going after people who just want to feed their families, people who came here with that American dream. And it's so important what you're doing. Mariela, tell me a little bit about the communities that you've gone to, what areas you've seen, and I know you posted photos and videos, and really, what was it that you observed?
So on Friday was kind of like the beginning of this nightmare, where we saw them on our Huntington Manor Fire Department parked outside, and I got the first call around.
The fire department.
The fire.
That's on the county
department.
jurisdiction, and the county's not supposed to be cooperating. They claimed they weren't cooperating.
Which is contradicting, because we have photos that we sent in where their garage doors were open and ICE agents were on the inside the property, entering. We had also people that drove there and recorded. We have live videos of them with the garages opening and closing. So it's very contradicting to the statements that they gave to the community.
Nassau County is cooperating, but Suffolk County declared at the county level that they would not be cooperating with ICE, that ICE can do their job alone, but that the county officials would not be letting themselves.
But we're seeing otherwise right now, and that's the alarming part, because how do we trust our county?
Have you reached out to any legislators? They would have county jurisdiction.
Not yet. We're gathering all the proof.
I would suggest you do that, because they would have jurisdiction to, at least be the eyes and ears, and they would have jurisdiction to question what's happening if the county is cooperating, despite what they're telling the people.
So I did reach out, and what I was told is that they are an independent districts, that the county doesn't oversee them. So then when I asked the question, then who oversees these fire departments? I'm still not getting a clear answer, which is very unfortunate.
My understanding is that they are under the county.
Thank you for letting me know.
In fact, Firematic in Yapank is a county facility where they all train, where they...
That's exactly what I said, but that's not what I was told. And it is, and Huntington Station Fire Department is not an isolated. We have pictures and video at the Wyandotte Fire Department, today in the Riverhead Fire Department, right, Westbury and Brentwood. This is something that was previously organized very well, and they are using the fire departments, and the fire departments are cooperating with them.
Y vamos a hacer esto un poco en español y un poco en inglés, y disculpe por mi español, es un poco arrebatado, pero ¿en qué pueblos están operando inmigración en este momento? según ustedes observaron?
Principalmente Huntington, Brentwood, Wyandotte, Bayshore, Central Islip, Westbury. Estamos escuchando ahora también que están en Selden, Farmingville, Medford.
Y lo que ustedes hacen es importante porque ustedes postean fotos, porque también hay gente que observan cosas que no es
que no
ICE.
son, correcto.
Entonces lo dicen, pero no ponen la prueba.
Sí,
ustedes no dicen nada si no pueden documentar.
No verificarlo, sí. So, una de las cosas que le decimos a la comunidad es que si ven algo, por favor tomen fotos, tomen vídeo, lo compartan, pero díganos exactamente qué ubicación y a qué hora. Porque a veces se ocurrió a las 8 de la mañana y nos dicen a las 10 de la mañana y es muy tarde.
Sí.
Nosotros ahorita tenemos un grupo grandísimo por todos lados de Long Island. Por ejemplo, a mí me llamaron de Riverhead, ya tenía 2 personas ya monitoreando Riverhead. Lo mismo ella en Huntington. So, pero necesitamos que la información llegue, pero llegue precisa.
Sí, importante. Yo sé, Osman Canales, un campeón también.
Sí, he's a champion.
Ese es un muchacho que yo conocí cuando él era Prilight, un estudiante que vino aquí a Albany cuando estaba graduando, y desde ese tiempo se ha destacado como un líder en la comunidad y de verdad es un campeón. Entonces ese es el rol de ustedes. La prensa, yo sé que nos está ayudando la prensa latina. Yo publiqué algo esta semana, más tenemos que usar esos medios mucho más para informar a la gente, porque hay tanta información mala. Y te digo que cuando las edades empezaron, yo hice un video y lo puse en Facebook. Dentro de una hora salieron otros oficiales electos diciendo que eso era mentira. Y yo tenía video y fotos. Entonces es muy importante que la gente tenga fuentes como ustedes y medios que son confiables.
Y lo bueno de haber creado, digamos, esta coalición es de que cada uno de nosotros tenemos miles de seguidores en el social media, en nuestras plataformas.
¿Y cuál página? ¿Cómo se llama la página?
Cada uno vamos en nuestra página individual.
¿Por su nombre?
Por el nombre.
Pilar Moya.
Pilar Moya.
Y Mariela Rivas.
En Facebook, Mariela.
Y también
Osman
Canales.
Entonces,
so the 3 Facebook pages are based on your names.
Exactamente. Yes. Entonces, cuando vieron que cada vez que poníamos un video juntos teníamos como más de 10,000 views, ahí fue que recién el canal 12, News 12, se interesó en nosotros y todos los días nos han estado entrevistando. Y Newsday también, ya.
Qué bueno.
Gracias a Dios.
Entonces, también yo hice un town hall donde tuve Tish James, the Attorney General. I had some lawyers there. And we inform people of their rights. And it's important that, perhaps in the second segment, part 2 is coming up. We're going to be breaking right now, and we're going to be doing a part 2. And in that segment, I want to talk a little bit about immigrant rights, how somebody should react when they have contact with an officer of ICE or a police officer, and what they can and what they can't do. So stay tuned. We'll be back in a few minutes and with part 2 of this wonderful interview that's so important. Hi, welcome to part 2 of Assembly Update. Today I have Mariela Rivas, activist in our community, and Pilar Moya from Latinos Unidos de Long Island, and we're going to continue our discussion about the current situation of the deportations and the terrorizing of our community. Recently there was a protest in Westbury to protest Trump's administration and his efforts to deport our immigrants. There's so much lies coming out of Washington, and I don't know why some segments of the community doesn't really get it. When the president first came out and said he was going to focus on criminals, most people didn't have a problem with that. They would say, okay, a criminal has abused their right to be here. They should be deported. But that was just, disguising what it really was about. And the point is, there are not enough criminals in the immigrant community for Trump to meet his goal of mass deportation of 3,000 people a day. So what he did is, now he's going after just regular people who are trying to feed their family. People who have that same American dream as every immigrant that has ever come to America. The ancestors of those who are anti-immigrant, who have anti-immigrant sentiments, they went through the same thing, came here for that same dream. And now we see that, another disinformation and another bait and switch was that, you know, you hear a lot of people saying, well, what's wrong? Why can't immigrants just go by the rules? This is about the law. Everybody should go by the law. And it turns out that Trump is limiting people who have green cards, and now they are in danger that if they travel to their home country to visit their mom or their grandmother, if they come back, they now face the prospect of getting stopped in the airport and getting deported and having their green card taken away from them. In other words, they would landlock them here in the United States. And these are people with green cards. These are people who did everything totally legally. They went by the rules, so it's not about the rules. It's not about the law. And, you know, in fact, when we're talking about the law, we see the protests happening over in LA, and we see 700 Marines being brought in to deal with 200 protesters. But yet 4,000 protesters in Washington on January 6th didn't have Marines come in. And half of them, a bunch of them, were hired as immigration officers for ICE. Those are some of the people who are on our streets now trying to deport people who tried to overthrow our government. So it's a double standard. It's hypocritical, you know, to even talk about going by the rules when the rules have never applied to people of color in the same way. In fact, you know, rules like citizenship, if you're born in the United States, that means you're American, but yet we had the Asian Exclusion Act, and that excluded Asians from being Americans. We had the Operation Wetback in California, where they deported Mexicans who were born in California. The rules have never been the same. And African Americans, they didn't get to see that, that majestic lady with the torch in their hand because they were chained to the bottom of ships. So again, it's hypocritical to talk about going by the rules when we know that the rules have never been the same for people of color. And we know that this anti-immigrant wave that's coming through this country is not about the rules. It's about the browning of America. Exactly. That's what it's about. And there's no way around it. They can, you know, they can cloud up the issue and talk all they want, but that's basically what it's about. You know, here in the Assembly, we put out some laws, Dignity for Immigrants in New York, the SAFE Act prohibiting the detention of individuals based only on the violation of federal immigration laws. The oversight of immigration detention facilities. This law prohibits municipalities from using funds or resources for the construction of any new detention center. If ICE wants to do a detention center, they need to fund it themselves. It should not be our local one. We have several legislation here that have been introduced to try and protect our people and protect the immigrants from this onslaught, from what's happening in this country. What we're seeing here is what we saw in Europe during World War II, walking up to people asking them for their papers. They actually have arrested U.S. citizens because they refuse to show their papers, which they're not obligated to do. Open your eyes. People need to open their eyes to what's happening in this country. A little bit about people's rights. One thing that is happening is a lot of immigrants don't understand their rights, and they think that police, like in many countries, have a right to walk into their homes. And are you experiencing that people really don't understand what their rights are?
Absolutely. What we've seen, especially what we saw in Brentwood this past weekend, we saw two people working on fixing a fence, right? And all of a sudden, alleged ICE enforcement showed up, like 8 of them surrounded the two people. Mm-hmm. And thank God we got there on time, and Osman with the megaphone kept telling him, you have the right to remain silent. Mm-hmm. Do not say a word, do not say a word. And luckily for these two men, they remained silent. Mm-hmm. And after we start questioning, these agents asked them if they have a warrant, a judicial warrant, asking them to identify themselves or to remove their masks, asking them who they were, mm-hmm. because they were in private vehicles, right? They refused, and we put so much pressure that they ended up walking away and they mm-hmm. left.
So ICE agents refused to identify themselves?
They refused to identify themselves,
and they also admitted to not having a judicial warrant. Right. I have them on video.
Camera. We have it on video.
And that's important.
It's like a hunting.
It's
They're
important
hunting.
for people to know, and please
mm-hmm.
share this information. You hear a lot about judicial warrants, and I think a lot of people know that they need a judicial warrant in order to arrest somebody. But if they come to your house and they have a judicial warrant, and they knock on the door and you say that person is not home, a judicial warrant does not give them the right to enter your home. Mm-hmm. Importante detallar esto en español.
El nombre tiene que
Una
estar
orden
ahí.
de captura judicial no le da el derecho a un policía ni a ICE entrar a la casa de uno. Ellos pueden tocar la puerta. Si uno dice que esa persona, uno ni siquiera tiene que contestar la puerta, pero si lo contesta y dice que la persona no está ahí, ellos no pueden entrar a esa casa. Hay una diferencia en una orden de captura y una orden de registro. La orden de captura, que se dice en inglés judicial warrant, eso, si encuentran a la persona en la calle y ellos identifican que eso es esa persona, lo pueden capturar, lo pueden meter preso. Pero, y ellos sí pueden tocar la puerta, pero no pueden entrar a la fuerza. Ellos necesitan una orden de registro para entrar. And I'll say this in English. Judicial warrant is not the same thing as a search warrant. If they knock on your door and that person's not home and you tell them they're not home, you don't have an obligation to even answer the door. But if they can't prove that person's home, they do not have a right to enter that home just with a judicial warrant. They need a search warrant. So it's make sure that you understand the difference between the two and that you share this information, because people are thinking that because somebody shows a judicial warrant, they have an obligation to open up their door and allow the agents in.
And that now that you're touching that point, we have seen agents abusing their authority and actually trespassing property. We have it on video. One of the agents came out and he's like, "Oh no, everything's okay. They gave me permission to go search the property, like the backyard." And the property owner came and she said no, that she didn't give them permission or authorization to go into their backyard. And our question was, so if, like, why are you in their property? Oh no, we stopped somebody that ran a stop sign and ran into that property, and we had permission from them to go in. I'm like,
well, my question would be, and remember I was a police officer, why is ICE enforcing the vehicle traffic law?
That's
not their
what we
jurisdiction.
asked. That's what we asked.
That's what we asked. And then we said, so then you are the Suffolk County Police Department then. You are not ICE. You are the police. Right? Otherwise you wouldn't have jurisdiction over traffic, these issues with traffic.
That's not their job and that's not their jurisdiction.
And I start saying that's not what we, the taxpayers, are paying for.
And if you're able to record an officer saying that he was chasing somebody, right? Then you have a right to foil the video of that chase to see if it was true or not. Really? The public has a right. That video is yours.
It's mine.
No, I mean the police video. The police, if they're involved in the chase, or ICE is involved in the chase, they have to video that chase. So if they're telling you they were involved in the chase and they chased them behind the house, then the public or the person whose right was violated has a right to foil that video from ICE. And they have to turn it over.
These people were dressed on their regular clothes, not as police officers, and they were not even using their body cams.
Then they would be in violation of their protocols.
If they were police, I don't know, unless they are off-duty police officers doing this kind of work, because they refuse to identify themselves, and some even mask up, so we don't know. We ask and we got no answers.
Yeah, this is really sad and hypocritical. The founding of this country, I don't think, for instance, in New York, I don't think the Iroquois Indians gave anybody permission to come here and take over their country. So the founding fathers came here with the same dream that the immigrants come here today with, and it's a violation of law, not criminal law, but it's a violation of administrative law, immigration law to cross a border. But what kind of violation is this? One of love. The vast majority come here out of love in their heart for some family member back home who do sacrifices. They risk crossing borders. They go through mountains. They get on boats and float away to other countries, all because they love their families. They want to provide for their kids. So yes, we should have a system where we keep track of people who come in here. But we also should not treat people like they're criminals for the simple act of trying to survive.
Exactly.
And it's amazing that the president now is allowing immigrants to come here, white immigrants from South Africa, to come here with temporary protected status, but a Haitian person who comes here starving and from a country in a failed government, that person is getting their TPS taken away. They're also threatening now to take it away from Salvadorians. You have Salvadorians here who have been over 20 years with TPS, paying taxes and paying Social Security.
And raising their families.
And I submit that we should do, if they start deporting Salvadorians who have been here for 20 years, they should contact an attorney I know Fred Brewington is working on some issues here to do a class action suit, because if they've been paying Social Security for 20 years and never going to have the right to collect it, they have the grounds to do a class action suit. That's real important that they do that.
And in that regard of the TPS, I know a lot of people that benefit from it that came here in 1985, 2000, paying taxes, hard worker. I know most of them, you know, can have the opportunity to the green card, but I know a lot that don't because they don't have kids in the United States. And it's just sad because now they're in the struggle of, just because they don't have a citizen child, you know, in the United States, they could just face deportation after being here for over 30 years. Es una lástima.
Alguien que llegó aquí en 1980 ha vivido toda una vida aquí. Colaborado con la economía, hecho su vida, no cometió ningún crimen. Entonces le están quitando eso, porque sabemos que no tiene que ver con la ley, esto tiene que ver con el racismo.
Exacto.
Tiene que ver que tantos latinos están llegando aquí y hay racistas que piensan que están perdiendo algo.
Y si vemos, no están parando a los italianos, no están parando a los blanquitos. O sea, hay gente que viene and they overstay their visa.
Han deportado ciudadanos americanos que son latinos.
Sí. Solo porque
and I think it's also important to note that what can we do to prevent this from happening, right? Because it is very unfortunate with those that disagree with us, which is what we always get on social media. It's like they're only deporting criminals. We have proven that that's not the case. But what the issue here is that some, not only Donald Trump, but his administration is criminalizing all brown people.
At this point, civil disobedience, we have to resist. At this point, it's almost like revolutionary tactics that we have to have because we're up against the power base that is, you know, very powerful. But justice always wins over injustice. You know, the truth always wins over injustice. So we should not fall into breaking the law. You know, uncivil arrest. You know, we should not be committing crimes in our protests because that takes away from our message. But we have to resist. We are resisting for the lives of our people, and we will continue to do that. Thank you both for your wonderful work. Please feel free to come back anytime. Keep up the fight. We'll overcome this.
Thank you.
Thank you.